This is a battle at your local Honda dealership. Two very different ways to get 3 rows of seats with up to 8 passengers inside them. A traditional minivan like the 2025 Odyssey, or the traditional Pilot, a big midsize SUV. Both of them tons of space, a lot of power, and for 2025, updated tech features. I'm gonna go inside and out of these vehicles to show you which one you might walk away with. These Hondas are mainstays in the American marketplace. The Pilot for over 20 years, the Odyssey 30 years. The Odyssey is in its 5th generation and it's been brand new since 2018. It gets the tiniest of refreshes for 2025. The Pilot was brand new since 2023, and this one has a new trim, the Black Edition for 2025. Minivans are not desirable creatures, but if you're gonna do it, at least make it look something nice like this. Very streamlined, very aerodynamic, nice chrome trim that arches up from the side doors. The rear glass is really my favorite element. Honda doesn't have to style it this way, but at least they're making an effort. It's not gonna look as good as the Pilot, but for 2025, they got new wheel choices, like the 19-inch wheels on this Elite. And you'll see in the front, LED headlights, just as bright and nice looking as the Pilot, and a new grille that matches that texture on the Pilot, and it's all black, including black fog light surrounds. You'll also notice new fascias, new rear bumpers. Other than that, it's the same Odyssey you've known since the 2018 model year. And it's also kind of distinctive because not as many people drive minivans. If you want that rugged adventure type look, or you just want to pretend that you're driving a Land Rover, it's the Pilot. It's square, it's upright. It mirrors the Pilot from about 20 years ago that was very boxy and upright that proved very, very popular. For 2025, minor changes like this Black Edition. This one is red, but you're gonna notice the black 20-inch wheels, the black grille, mirror caps, roof rack, and a lot of the window surrounds. Otherwise, it's the same Pilot that's been around for the last few years. I do like the way this looks. It does look more expensive than it should be, right? For $50K, I think especially the front with the thin LED lights, the big black grille on this one, and in the back, well, it spells Pilot out in all caps and has nice soft LED taillights. Nothing really is too wild on the Pilot, but you definitely know that this is the truck. And despite it looking really big, in person, it's really not all that imposing. The Pilot is large, but the Odyssey stretches further. The wheelbase stretches by another 4 inches. Overall length, more than 5 inches longer than the Pilot. The width, identical. The height of the Pilot, though, is 1.4 inches taller, and the ground clearance, 7.1 inches on this Black Edition, is certainly higher than that of the Odyssey, and the Odyssey doesn't even publish a figure. But if you can look here, it's not a lot, so if you actually want some clearance, you're gonna definitely need a Pilot. Heated leather seats come standard on the Odyssey, but unlike the Pilot, the driver's seat moves in 12 ways, and there's 4-way power lumbar adjustment. The front passenger seat, 8 ways with 4-way lumbar. Plus, for more adjustability, center armrests. The Odyssey has the older Honda styling template, from the air vents to some of the plastics like the fake wood trim and the half-digital instrument panel. But quality and fit and finish are just as good, and the white and black interior with all the piping, that's not something you'll find on the Pilot. A lot of electric cars have removed the tall center console for an open concept version of space, right? But the Odyssey has already been doing that for years. You get plenty of knee space here, plenty of storage for bags, a little drawer underneath here, cup holder, wireless charger here, big deep console with more USB and HDMI ports there, and really a nice spacious interior for you to stretch out in the front seat. The Pilot has 2 more inches of headroom, equal legroom as the Odyssey. The driver's seat, though, not as adjustable. It's a 10-way power heated seat with only 2-way lumbar, and the passenger seat only moves in 4 ways with no lumbar. On the Pilot Black Edition, there's red perforated seats, stitching, accents, and embroidered headrests. There's also red accent lighting even in the second row. And I really like the deep storage bin in the front and 3-tier storage trays on all of the doors. In the Pilot, it feels more like a regular SUV because it is. This wider center console that's dividing driver and passenger, the rectilinear layout, it's definitely more of a truck feel than an open van feel. Back here, it's very spacious and there's plenty of storage areas. Pocket, cup holders, vents, more cup holders, and if the center seat is installed for a maximum of 8 passengers, there's even more cup holders. So it's either 7 or an 8-passenger configuration, and it's easy to take out, but these seats are definitely not easy to remove. With the center passenger seat removed, you can slide this way if you want to be obsessively close to the person next to you, but doing that allows more third row egress over here. And this seat also moves. No other minivan does this. It's pretty fun. You won't get a panoramic roof in the Odyssey, but what you get, a fold down screen, 12.8 inches, which is larger than before. And if you're looking for that HDMI port, it's in the front console. It's been moved. And this person over here can adjust the third zone climate that is standard in every single Odyssey, so you better be nice to him, really. Like the Odyssey, the Pilot seats 7 or 8. This center seat is removable on the top 3 trims. It is fixed on the lower 2. And it's also stowable in the back cargo area. Moves out just like the Odyssey, just about the same amount of size too. And if you put this down, like the Odyssey, you got cup holders, a nice tray here. It's pretty convenient. In the Pilot, there's an inch of extra headroom in this second row, equal legroom. There's a third zone of climate, and there's heated seats here where the Odyssey does not have it, plus a panoramic moonroof. You cannot get that in the Odyssey, but no screens. Now this is a real backseat for kids and adults. Tons of legroom, tons of headroom. And on the Elite trim, you're getting side third window sunshades, USB-C ports. There's an extra one over there with a headphone jack and volume control, and air vents conveniently positioned right by the armrests. In the third row, the Pilot has an inch of extra headroom. Legroom though, significantly less, more than 5 inches less. It's really all not that cramped though, but the air vents are not in as convenient as a place. It's over here as opposed to being in the front. There's no side shades here either. And I honestly don't know how you'd fit 3 kids across here. It would be a tight squeeze. When you sacrifice exterior style, you put SUVs to shame when it comes to cargo space. Look at the numbers behind the third row. Now, behind the second row. With everything folded, 86 on the Pilot, 141 with the Odyssey. And the Pilot is among the largest 3-row crossovers you can get, but there's no comparison to a minivan. Let's talk powertrains, or rather powertrain. Both the Pilot and the Odyssey share a 10-speed automatic transmission and a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6. If you're looking for turbos and hybrid power, you're not going to find them here, but you will find nearly identical fuel efficiency. Check out the numbers for a front-wheel drive Pilot and the Odyssey, which only comes as front-wheel drive. If you're getting the all-wheel drive, like this black edition, which does come standard on this particular trim, the numbers do drop, and even more so if you get the off-road ready Trail Sport. For towing though, it's the Pilot that really has the edge. 5,000 pounds versus 3,500 on the Odyssey. From behind the wheel, the Odyssey feels like a lowered Pilot. That's what you get with the same exact powertrain. But it definitely feels lower because it is. Lower center of gravity, and it's the view. This windshield, it's like looking through VR goggles. You don't get windshields this large, this sweeping. You can see more of the outside world in the Odyssey, including from the sides. Low shoulder lines, just a ton of visibility. It makes driving this actually more enjoyable, even though it's not sportier by any means. It's just nicer to see out of. It's nicer to drive and just enjoy yourself. I haven't been in a vehicle with this much glass. Aside from a tour bus or a coach bus going to, I don't know, Grand Central, those are horrible. Here, you're in total comfort at all times. And really, I feel like I'm even more comfortable than the Pilot. But it doesn't steer quite with the same sharpness that the Pilot does, which is an odd thing because that's a higher riding SUV. And you'd expect maybe the Odyssey to have a little just, I don't know, more direct steering. It's good. But the Pilot is just that much better. But if I wasn't comparing this to the Pilot, I'd say this is also really good. On-center feel, it's light, but it's not too light. But the Pilot just definitely beats it there. Response on the Odyssey is good. Sounds pretty decent, quick shifting. There's no drive modes like you'll find in the Pilot. Part of that being this is a front-wheel drive vehicle all the time. So the Pilot's got those, fun off-road trail modes that you can do. There's a sport mode with the transmission, but it doesn't do anything. It just make things a little louder. There's paddle shifters. But that's not the Odyssey's mission in life. It's about comfort. And the Pilot's comfortable, but the Pilot is the sportier vehicle. But I think the laid-back feeling inside this Odyssey is what makes me want to drive slower. Never thought I'd say that. But if you take an Odyssey versus a Pilot on a road trip, everyone's going to see more of the outside world. They can take out their phones and take pictures. This is the car that lets you do that. It's not an SUV like a Pilot. You got to think about what your true desires are for buying a $50,000 family car. So if you're going that way, what do you want? The more I drive the Odyssey, the more I'm thinking, I wouldn't mind being seen in this car because I like seeing out of it more. The Odyssey also is quiet. It's hard to say which is truly quieter, considering how large this car is, how open it is. It's sealed so well. At low speeds, at higher speeds. The Odyssey really is not going to be the fanciest car. It definitely feels older inside here. Just looking at this dashboard, it was definitely cool 6-7 years ago. Definitely feeling a bit dated now. But all the fundamentals in this car are there. It really is. Braking in the Odyssey, slightly spongy, but pretty secure. Way more secure than most SUVs. This might be a higher riding SUV, but it certainly doesn't feel that way from the driver's seat. From the start, the Pilot is just more engaging. It's not the engine, but the sport mode actually helps. Unlike in the Odyssey, it's actually a separate driving mode, not just a button for just the transmission programming. So it also tightens up some of the steering weighting, which is already great to begin with. But in this mode, a little bit better for on-center feel, even though they're both really light. But when you get in the Pilot, very much, I'm convinced it's a smaller car, and it definitely isn't. There's definitely more body roll at all times. It's not terrible, but definitely more noticeable than that Odyssey. And slightly, ever so slightly, more wind noise. This is a blockier body. It's definitely not as aerodynamic. And at the same speed, I definitely feel more wind noise coming at me. It also does feel more like a truck. That brickish shape that you see on the outside translates to the view in the inside. I do feel more constricted in the Pilot. And ordinarily, I wouldn't ever think to say that. But the Odyssey makes me feel that way. Again, cornering is really nice and flat. There's some roll, a little bit more than the Odyssey. But weirdly, the Pilot feels like it's sportier, like the chassis is set up for that. There's also mechanical torque vectoring on the rear axle. That's something, of course, that the Odyssey cannot deliver, being front-wheel drive only. But when you get the all-wheel drive version of the Pilot, that's a really nice welcome feature. Something Honda has perfected since the mid-2000s. It tightens the back of the car, sharpens the response, and that means you have more controllable behavior when you're at the limit. And you might say, I'll never be at the limit. Well, oftentimes we don't know what the limit is until we've hit it. And in the Pilot, this is the vehicle that in all seasons is just delivering more driver confidence, more feedback, and yet not sacrificing the comfort. Maybe it's slightly louder, I could give it that, versus the Odyssey. But from a driver's perspective, this is more engaging. Every time I drive the Pilot, while I like this V6, I kind of wish for some extra low-end torque. But then once you're up to speed, it settles down really nicely. It's quiet, it's smooth. So Honda definitely has something going on with just a bigger, older, 6-cylinder engine. I kind of vibe with that, I really do. So the real difference between these two, it's the view out the window, and it's the handling experience. Which of those do you really want? Which of those do you favor? You might be surprised when you drive both of them back to back. It all depends on your priority. For an SUV, just on its own, the Pilot drives so well, From a chassis and handling perspective, a lot of big SUVs don't do that. The brake pedal feels about as spongy as the Odyssey, and there's more brake dive, this being slightly softer in suspension tune, but I'm okay with that. A 9-inch touchscreen comes standard on every Odyssey. That is 1 inch larger than the previous model year, and there's still a volume knob, a physical home button, and a back button. Everything is color-coded. This is a nice system. It's been on Hondas for quite some time, and a row of climate controls here, including for the rear, if you want to adjust those settings right here, all analog. Also, analog controls for the heated and cooled seats. They're not in a touchscreen. Some little driving modes here for snow and economy. That's all good. I like that. Now up here, some interesting features that you'll only find on the Odyssey. Cabin watch. You can see the second and third rows right from here. Hello, Michael. And there's also, similar to what you'll find in the Honda Pilot, cabin talk, which will also even go into headphones. That's actually pretty cool, so no one can escape the driver. Other unique Odyssey features. When you adjust the speakers here, and on this Elite trim, it's got DTS surround sound on this 11-speaker no-name system. However, there's audio zones, and you can go from driver to the front to the rear. So just with a few taps here, you can change exactly where the sound is coming from. That's really nice too, when you just don't want to hear the movie that's playing in the back and you can't watch it. It's probably the worst thing as a driver in a minivan. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto also come standard across every single Odyssey trim. And there's 5 USB ports, which doesn't seem like a lot for such a large vehicle. For 2025, every Odyssey comes with a half-digital instrument panel that shows the tachometer, safety systems, and various other settings that you can adjust. Pretty nice here from the steering wheel, but it's not as full-featured as Honda's fully digital instrument panel that you'll find on the Pilot. The Pilot shares the same 9-inch touchscreen with color-coded tiles, but a much better camera system. The Odyssey doesn't even have 360 cameras, it just has one bad rear view camera to really knock against it, plus wheel cameras in the front. Really nice. More views when you're in reverse. Again, it's just a better system overall. It does not have cabin watch, so there's no camera, but there is cabin talk. But you can't have any headphones, so it's just the main intercom system. It sounds really silly to use this thing, but it's there. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are on every Pilot trim except the base Sport, which is kind of weird. You can't even get it. And the stereo is better inside the Pilot. It's a 12-speaker Bose system. Bose center point's pretty nice too. So a little bit more powerful, a little better. But it also has the same multi-zone audio, so if you only want to send audio to the rear, you can do that. I think it's more useful in the Odyssey just because it's a longer vehicle, more people that can really fit comfortably. And just like the Odyssey, the Pilot makes it really easy to adjust vehicle settings. This is an Android-based system. So you get basically all of this information here. So many systems come standard. And the Pilot also has a head-up display, which the Odyssey does not offer. The Pilot has a fully digital instrument panel. On the left, you can adjust phone and audio settings. But on the right, that's where all the information is, with the right thumb wheel, plus a head-up display, which the Odyssey does not have. And when you use Honda Watch, the gauges will actually kind of get a little smaller, and they'll show the lanes, all that stuff. The Odyssey can't do that, but it has the same system. So this is a way more fully featured system, but it also doesn't have full screen maps, so there's more that Honda could do, but I do like it better here in the Pilot. The 2025 Honda Odyssey starts around $42,000. There are 4 trims. As tested with Destination, our Elite was around $52,000. The 2025 Honda Pilot starts around $40,000. There are 6 trims, and ours, the Black Edition with red paint and Destination, was around $56,000 as tested. Surprise, the Odyssey wins. For the same amount of money, there's so much more cargo space, more room for people, and more ways to rearrange that space to the way you want it. You can't do that in the Pilot. Do I like to look at this car? No, not at all. I don't even want to be seen driving it. But once I am driving it, I'm comfortable. I love looking out. This expanse of glass is incredible. And really, after all of these years, Honda is delivering a quality product. And there's not that many great minivans out there because there's hardly any minivans to choose. There's plenty of SUVs. We've also reviewed the Pilot, which I also like. But I think dollar for dollar, you're getting more vehicle for your money and for your family with an Odyssey. What do you think? Go to CarGurus.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.